Hey folks, how are you out there? Glad you're all tuning in. I'm K-Von Superfans Ahead.
An air raid shelter.
An air raid shelter, that's right.
World War
a bomb
II
shelter. Location, and we want to thank our great sponsor, Storage Mart.
That was a great segue.
I think it tied in perfectly, actually, to be honest with you.
This is Trump's
You can't fake this.
This is not fake news.
This is not fake news whatsoever. This is the. I think it was just all a matter of. It was all natural. It was just timing. It was great. There was someone calling in to tell us.
It was my lady friend Rosa. Sorry, Rosa, I couldn't make it today.
More important things to do tonight, right?
All right, yeah, but Skate sponsored my saddle. Or their parents can't afford to buy. It's great. I mean, learning to play hockey, learning to skate on secondhand skates.
Now it's a brilliant thing.
And secondhand equipment, Kate. When I was learning how to play ice hockey in the mid. Like what Gretzky used to wear when he first came in.
Round sort of dome, sort of.
But yeah, all my equipment, shoulder pads, pants, skates were all hand-me-down. As a kid, I didn't care. I was just out there. You can help out, whether maybe you own or your kid's part of a rep. Speak to the coach or the GM or the person who owns the team. Maybe they'd want to get involved and help other youngsters be able to.
Moved to this great country, I'll tell you one thing. The first thing I always was so enthused about was to go find a skating rink. Oh my God, I need to get a pair of skates. I want to do the same thing. I want to purchase them. It's probably the greatest pastime I used to have when we first immigrated to this country. And to tell you the truth, I didn't call them ice hockey rinks, but to be honest with you, it was a joy. It was like a breath of. And then going out with friends, and even at school, I remember there was outdoor rinks or wooden boards they'd build if you were lucky, and you could skate around like a makeshift hot chocolate with marshmallows, and it's a culture here, I think, more than anything else. But when youngsters or kids with their fellow peers or friends, but it's just something where even if you good at it, and once you develop the knack for it, you get your back. I don't know, how was it the first time you laced up a pair and went for
Overbrook specifically, which is nearest if you're talking major intersection.
Irving Chapley.
They would flood the park, the
old-fashioned way.
Flood the park, and you'd learn. Back then, you would.
You put it on the grass, and it would just freeze it over.
That's exactly right.
That's the way it was.
And then eventually, a little rink would have, as you're talking about, wooden boards and a chain link fence.
Correct.
And that's where, as a 9-year-old, so skates. I hate to say it, but I didn't wear a jock strap. I don't know if you need one at 9 years old. The Civic Arena staff there,
right,
at this little facility.
The city.
If I had a day off school for any reason, I could just go. Back then, it was just common sense. I'd just be skating with a puck and a stick.
That's the way.
And then I was in a little developed education came first, and but I had loads of fun. It was great, and back then the winter. Of March. Yeah, there'd be a January, but January thaw didn't mean 15 Celsius. It meant it was right around the freezing mark. Local variety store, and you'd buy a stick that you'd use for both road hockey, which we played all the time. Like any sport, I think for a kid. I'm not a parent, so I don't want to be dishonest, but I worked at summer camp. about the life lessons. And I know people get cynical. You know, the basic cliche or axiom, whatever you want to say. In the real world, in family life, in working life, you're going to get knocked down lots of times. It's about have that to fall back on.
Yeah, to persevere, to
get
have that
through
determination.
Adversity, that's right.
And overcome adversity.
It comes up. We all know it does. It comes up, and you know, it's that's the way life. Everybody does about how you respond to it.
Yeah, that's it. That's precisely it.
So what I'm just saying, hockey is another discipline. Do you get knocked down?
You have to have the toughness in a way on the inside. That's why ice hockey is between there was obviously power skating classes, or you could take figure skating classes. Yeah. Just to lace on, I always had the ice hockey. On the ice, it hurt, but
that's how you learn.
You got to keep getting back up on your skates, and
it's like riding a bicycle.
Had this sort of whizzing by you at 40 miles an hour, whatever it was. I mean, that was later on, but of course, when you think of it, they used to have these hours, public skating hours. So everybody would crowd the rink and take out on a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon or whenever, and these public hours at these civic rinks, like the rink would get really crowded. I mean, the surface, you'd have to sort of take turns, and people
surface the ice. So
that's true. They'd have, especially if you're an elder skater.
Although that's
that's the most, it's paramount sort of thing. But like I said, means to get equipment, used equipment, especially figure skates and ice hockey skates. Want to learn how to pick up something like something from
what other show on earth?
You could never get this, No.
That's not helpful for skate to great. But again, adversity with a cop. You have to learn how professional sports. So I'm up for it, whether you want to talk footy, Vegas Golden Knights. Imagine knocked off the Kings, who were recently two-time Cup winners.
I don't get that.
I mean, a big, strong team. They scored. Of course, you got to have luck in any sport.
And I mean, come on, there's no other franchise expanded, demolished the competition, ended up first in their division.
Vegas, even if let's say they just.
It really is
good for the people in Winnipeg.
It really is. It reminds me that's actually a parallel to my sport of real football. We're talking to
real football,
footy. Tugs at my heartstrings, and I put my full support behind the Winnipeg. This happened in Wimbledon, don't forget.
Yeah.
And we don't acknowledge the fact that...
and to be fair, so everybody understands, when
all
the salaries were paid in U.S. dollars. So, to be fair, in fact, there was no, get this, Kayvon, there was no Canadian who wanted to buy either the Winnipeg Jets or the that other Canadian franchises could go under, and then the late Harley Hotchkiss of the teams funded the Canadian teams, other than I think the Maple Leafs, because they're
of course. At the time.
Well, of course they had to. Otherwise, these Canadian teams.
How would they survive in a? I mean, it's just the U.S. dollar itself. Have their season ticket base really come into?
Well, but they needed more than that, because the season ticket base is not enough to survive. You need private suites.
It is.
So the average income earner, which most government workers are, they can't afford a private suite.
Diplomats and government workers, civil servants or whatever, to get to get box suites comped or for free, and that would create.
I mean, that's how all, name the sport, baseball, football, hockey, basketball. If the base is anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 and on up,
Sure.
then you're not going to survive. You can't survive just. That's
the feasible thing in all arenas.
But that's why Winnipeg ended up in Phoenix.
Precisely. A working class town, blue collar town like Winnipeg.
Wasn't they weren't supported? The fans.
No, but I just can't believe even still.
Well, I mean, all the Canadian teams were well supported, but
sure,
it was just.
But when you think of it, it was all that and then some. I mean, they took it like religion almost in a way. It was a faith.
Well, hockey is just like.
But I mean, it's a religion.
Well, it is. Well, yeah.
I mean, look at the
university and down there,
the
college
Orange
basketball,
yes.
Yeah, college basketball, college football,
NCAA basketball, NCAA. The Big Ten, the Pac-10,
yeah.
you know, the Big Five teams, whatever it is.
The hockey final.
But sports in America, they have so much grassroots sponsorship and.
Well, yeah, I mean, high school football.
How is it not happening here? I don't know.
In the United States, high school football is massive.
It's
massive.
just like. It's just a no-brainer. I guess it helps.
Well, you get a free education.
But how many people do CIA or whatever it's called?
Well, now that's. But yeah, but you're also right to point out there's a lot of Canadians who've gone down, and let's face it, if you're thinking of being if you want to make the NBA,
right,
and you get a chance to go on an American scholarship, you are best to go down to the States. Because why? It makes sense. It's not a knock on Canada. Canada is growing into. Because you're playing against a better level of competition. Correct. Bigger, stronger, taller.
Yeah. There is more of a...
It's more... It's great, by the way.
It is, I like
it. But
it.
it's just that, you know...
But I mean, in terms of... Are you talking also facilities? I mean, obviously college sports in America have better...
Right. Then that's why it costs... Like, I went to, as I mentioned, graduate school at Syracuse University.
Sure.
$15,000 US. Now you take $1980, $15,000 US. Well, that would translate into what it is now. Amounts of student loans to pay back.
And how much is this?
Well, then multiply that by $30,000, $40,000.
Wow, they get lucky then. In that sense, they do, and obviously. Straight from wherever high school straight into and that's rare.
There's restrictions now,
but there's more of a restriction now than ever.
The NFL. It used to be, which is smart.
Yeah,
you know, because
it's more exciting for me to see a kid just jump straight out of high.
They don't make it, and what do you do then?
What do you fall back on? Precisely.
And the average career in pro sports. Can get excited but overlook the reality.
You're talking an average athlete.
Even if you're good, what if you suffer a devastating injury?
Right. Injuries that can get in the way as well.
Anything.
I mean,
all kinds of things can get in your way, but it's really important to get the education.
After their career has ended, they look at the same thing. What am I going to do?
Well, now with good family and good professional
place and a lot because he pioneered so much. Here we are, right here. Let me read you a little bit to you here. Donald Jackson, and he captured 4 Canadian titles and a bronze medal at the 1960 Winter Olympics. And at the jump in international competition and won the competition. Jackson was coached by Pierre Brunet in New York City, made a member of the Order of Canada, and in 2012 he was made a member of the Order of Ontario. Our capital city of Canada, and also Donald Jackson was inducted into the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame in 2000. No, but what a guy! Figure skating, ice skating. I think Donald Jackson is right. And Eisler, for that matter, or I can name it. It's just like Elvis Story.
He must give the greatest performance of his life. He's given many great ones.
was it right
See
here.
how he does it. He has planned it. Let's see what happens. No man has ever done that maneuver before in the World Championship.
And there you have it, Donald Jackson. The list goes on and on. Even Patrick Chan and people in more recent memory. I mean, there's so many of them. When I think of figure skaters, you know, obviously in North America, you know, the United States and Canada produce. You know, where I come from originally, England. You know, you think of guys like Robin Cousins, and I mentioned. Even the mother of one of my favourite ice hockey players, former NHLer Mark Hardy, who's now in Great Britain, and obviously his dad, I think, was he was playing. I didn't know what was her name, Barbara. Anyway, the name will come to me, but she I mean,
Underhill?
she mothered. No. She found out when he told me my mum was a championship figure skater for Great Britain. And was a very celebrated figure skater in the, you know, back in the 60s or whenever, around that time. You know, I mean, he was on the same teams as Gretzky. He was a teammate of Gretzky, IHL as well, teammate of Clint Malott, and that, and a very great. How many athletes out there, when you think of, you know, either even the other way around, you know, if you can have a parent who's a figure skater, who fathered or mothered a figure skater, that's kind of rare in some ways. I think there's a great wow factor in that. You know, Ovechkin, you know, the player on the Caps, you know, obviously, you know, he has. And I don't know what the dad was, but it just goes to show you, sometimes athletes, it runs in the genes, and in the whole league, isn't he?
Ovi?
I believe he is.
Well, there's a salary cap. So
8.8 million, I think.
Now, sometimes what happens is with an elite player,
He's brought it up for us. Thank you for
if
that.
you've got several elite teammates.
By the way, I'd like to thank our great being our producer for this segment.
He's a gifted guy.
Hands off.
Yeah,
He's
with
very
a salary
clever.
cap, you can't always get the max money. Sometimes, you know, you got to hold. It's
there's a slew of guys on that. Yeah,
Evgeny Malkin, right?
Sure.
So to accommodate salary, to accommodate, you know, you want to have other great players, right? You want to go to the max of the. Yeah, I mean,
every sport's different, obviously, but as we know.
But anyway, sometimes.
Making prior to the new collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, by Spot Track, Shea Weber of the Nashville Predators, defenseman. Well, this is all news, isn't it?
The salary cap.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those are all the, you know, Taves obviously a couple. Their cups, but to have for Taves,
right,
you know, you have to accommodate Kane.
Absolutely.
Player of Sydney or Taves or whoever you want to mention, maybe you take a little bit of a lower salary so the team can afford. Ovechkin, Taves, Kane, go down the list. How much are they each making? Sometimes they might make a little. A salary cap error.
Yeah,
so.
It's difficult at times, but that's why. Unless you're renewed for another year or something, they've always got to look at the dollars and cents and think, is it lock up the best for the longest time they can?
Yeah,
and
that's exactly.
But then when you get into in football,
well, there's no salary cap.
You can't really.
Everybody knows it's a joke.
It is in a way, isn't it?
Well.
Agreed, right? No.
Well, come on.
No.
But it's like now Chelsea is kind of like we're secondary compared to Madrid. There's no. When
you go back, honestly, when you go back to the 80s, there weren't as many
billionaires. Yeah,
there's billionaires, trillionaires in some ways. Some of them.
Well, Man City is like funded by an entire country.
It's a government.
Yeah.
You're in the money. You're in the making.
Which is why
you'll win cups.
Which is why they're going to be.
You'll win titles. You feel at all when you think of it.
It's not going to.
It never will because
unless you have a
when you
real,
think of it nowadays, though, with their academies up to their the A squads and whatnot, to the top. There's so much money thrown at these players and the coaching alone just to keep him on for it's insane. It's sad that he was always with Arsenal.
Yeah, but I mean they kind of stumbled for like several years.
They've really had a rough. Them in terms of loans and transfers and all these things.
Well, I mean Arsenal, their owners, they've got an American owner. They players. Haven't they got the largest stadium?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean it holds about 70.
West Ham.
No, Arsenal has the highest, from what I'm
Emirates Stadium.
Highest cost for season tickets. They've already given them. I think they said £50 million is what you'll have to spend. So it's not going to change because style of football or his tactics.
I don't
they were a top 5, 6, mostly top 4, but the last couple of years they slipped out. Obviously, lots of rumored names.
I'm sure most of the Gunners fan base are probably supportive of bringing in new blood.
Wenger out.
How many years has Austin been in the?
Since 1996, I believe.
Right.
You're not going to have anybody with a 20.
Fergie had a great tenure when he did. I don't know if he served long.
But you're not going to have any more 20-year managers.
It won't happen.
And even Sir Alex, if I'm not mistaken, struggled a little bit his first couple of years. It's just not going to happen because clubs can't be that patient if they struggle, have a bad year. Because
they have people who are always going to look for the big paycheck, and there's so many
every
good
player's
going to go back to Portugal to take up.
Yeah, I don't think
that'll happen. It'll be this guy. Then he'll trade posts with this
guy. There's always lots of managers, and sometimes you can have a manager.
Look how it is.
Right?
Yeah, no.
And they're
that's been very.
So Sean Dyche is probably going to get the next, maybe even this offseason.
He might get a call up to the big club.
Someone in terms of tactics.
But these are sort of the dark horses. They don't know what they can. Once they get to the next level, the 2 levels up. I don't know. I mean, you're working with a lot of egos once you go a little.
Well, you're always working with egos.
Well, that's true
in every sport.
Prima donnas in
certain
leagues, but
once you're talking. The only leverage, whether it's North American sports or world football,
it's all a money game.
The only leverage the coach, the Trump, if I can use that term.
Iron Mike Keenan, perfect example of benching every guy.
Well, I mean,
even Beckham and Fergie at the end with Man U, that was kind of the beginning of the end there.
You can't worry about pleasing your players. You got to worry about getting W's.
It's the wins, the victories that count on paper more than anything. This is not. It's not.
Yeah, there used to be an expression pertaining to the greatest hockey coach ever, Scott. In the 70s. So a joke that's commonly circulated with his former players. I think Steve, and they made it into a running joke. 364 days of the year, the Montreal Canadiens. Oh yeah, excuse me. The elite coaches don't worry about the players liking them. You got. But that's the great thing about him. You watch him behind the bench, and that includes when he was coaching Pittsburgh or coaching in Detroit. Nothing, or they're tied at 6, which is great because you don't want to give away. I think it's great.
Never.
that, but they never knew if he was really happy with them.
They couldn't see
Like
what
you
was
could have
coming.
a great game, and maybe he'd say, "I used to hear this from guys that play." Yeah. So
Yeah.
my friend,
It was weird. It was like, what's this guy up? What's he thinking?
executive with the Red Wings,
Of course.
told me this story that
Great
when
Toronto
he
boy,
was-
by the way.
Yes. The same Montreal Canadiens. They had so many great players. They had guys on their farm team. At the time, it was in Halifax Broadcasting, Murray Wilson. So he'd been called up a few times to the Habs, to the Montreal Canadiens, but
Right.
he wasn't. Toe Blake and say, "Hey, Toe, Murray Wilson would like,
Right.
would like him to get some playing time. Can you speak to Scotty?" So Toe Blake did that. He went and whistles all the players into the center of the ice to talk with them, and basically this. And you know what? I think that's a great gesture.
Fair enough,
So
yeah.
here's what we're going to do. Anyone who's willing.
There was no takers. No
So
takers,
Scotty
of
was
course.
reminding players he'll decide who plays and who doesn't play. But I'm just that Scotty, again, because he was such a, so driven that he went to the Penguins ownership and complained so that practices anymore. So Scotty would just fly in or drive into Pittsburgh for the
Yeah,
owner.
that's true.
So he could probably relate to Scotty because as an owner, not to be buddies with them.
Absolutely.
That's not owner. Not to be buddies with them.
Absolutely.
That's not the coach's job. There's another take. Imagine Mario being so upset with Scotty that he got him banned from Penguins. Johnson tragically got brain cancer.
Yeah.
And then the next year he won another cup with Pittsburgh.
That's right.
91-90.
Penguins organisation then.
I know the
I guess
name.
it was
but
with Hershey
I
was the
can't
GM
remember.
there, but I want to test your knowledge. We've got here creating possibilities for children on ice. We would urge you to call in this number. It provides them with something really fun to do, and none of them would ever have it if it weren't for this charity. So
It's a great
being
guy.
involved with something like this is it's so fulfilling. It's so it's really a pleasure and an honour, and I want to. There was a team at the time in Nashville, which was the Leafs affiliate. On that blade, it's all tape it up for you. Is that a good tape job or what?
Yeah,
The gaffer did a good job, obviously.
Nicely done. Give you a Rodney Dangerfield type
That's
analogy.
right.
You know how bad I was? I was so bad. My goal. My line mates congratulated each other, but not me. That's how bad I was.
And I believe a buddy of Punch Imlach's was in charge
Well,
there.
their feeder teams were.
Nashville.
Well, the Leafs farm team wasn't in Nashville. The Leafs had farm team, talking about in the 60s. They had farm teams in
Though there was another team after, I guess.
Well, they had the Tulsa Oilers.
It was Tulsa. It was Tulsa.
Yeah, Tulsa.
Am I right?
I don't remember the nickname, the Carp. I don't
Really, they
remember
call
that.
them the Carp.
Okay. The Carp. I
Like-
don't know. I mean, I know who their minor league, some of their coaches were, but I couldn't tell you that he was the GM.
He was just the GM.
But beyond that, I couldn't tell you who coached the Tulsa Oilers.
Right.
So
And let us know, because
Yeah,
I'm at a loss for this one.
I
I'm
guarantee you
completely
within
amiss.
10 years. So I couldn't help you with that. But anyway.
I wonder what the score is right now in that or having a playoff game tonight against very different opponents,
And
obviously.
by the time people are watching this, it'll probably advance to the have the arduous, the
Rob
very
Murray of the Tulsa Oilers, who are now an ECHL team, like the Washington Capitals, I believe,
Okay.
and a few others. He was just, a handful, but he played most of his career.
that was about life.
That was.
For the
Johnstown
fighters, the
Chiefs.
brawlers in the East Coast
You got
Hockey
it.
League. And I was told at the time when John Brophy was like a feared fighter in his day in the East Coast Hockey
Real
League.
tough man.
Here's an example of how tough he was. Even the National Hockey was coaching Toronto one time. And you know, Brophy had like this shiny gray, it was almost like silver hair more than a cut. But as time is going by and the game is going on, the red little thing grows until his head.
Oh no!
Until he had a big red patch of blood on it. But that's how tough he was.
An abscess, yeah.
That's how.
Coach now of the of North, I believe it's Owen Sound. He's coaching nowadays.
Yeah, and he's a good
Ontario
guy. And he was a
yeah. I never knew
so
that.
Todd was a thin guy, but he could fight like crazy.
I watched him
in the American Hockey League. The Maple Leafs had their farm team in Newmarket, which is a suburb
the
of
Saints,
Toronto.
right?
During during the period, he went from behind the bench, went into the locker room. He was so pissed off at the players, but that was broke. But he wanted, you know, he demanded the most from his. In the slap shot, the classic slap.
There was
shot
also an Eastern Hockey League. Don't forget.
Hey, we're down to almost last minute of play in this show. Last minute of play.
Last minute.
The commissioner,
I'm a Wimbledon boy, and we didn't even get to tennis.
The commissioner, Evan Kozner, will find us if we go.
He will. But let's see if we can straighten. Oh no, it was Eastern Hockey League, I think.
Okay, you may
and
be right.
Nashville might have been the team there.
ECHL was East Coast Hockey.
Of course, yeah.
No, I used to be able to listen on WOWO Fort Wayne. And it was on the map, like I was a teenager, right? And I listened on my transistor radio, but it had a stronger signal than WOWO Fort Wayne Comets Hockey. And aren't you glad you tuned us in? Courtesy of Skate the Great.